And welcome back to the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate North American Online Open May 2020. Jordan Kent, joined by my two friends, Vicky Kitty and Coney. We just got done figuring out who will be our first finalist in our grand finals, and that is Greninja moving along with a very impressive victory, Cloud over Ventus Will's Ness. Now let's get started with our losers bracket. Let's take one more glance at that bracket if we can, just to show you the action that will be taking place before we get to grand finals. You see the bottom half of our bracket, it'll be Some Guy versus Crunchbat. Crunchbat, the Mewtwo player, and then Some Guys we saw with Pichu, but very capable with Dark Pit and Bowser. Winner of that will take on Ventus Will, and then eventually we will find an opponent for Greninja in those grand finals. So Some Guy versus Crunchbat here, Vicky, and what do you make of this matchup if we do see the Pichu coming out against Mewtwo?
So it essentially boils down to the two characters that we all basically call them a glass cannon. And now the hard hitter here, I would say, would be Pichu, just because now Pichu is that small character. You are going to be able to utilize the fact that Pichu could low profile under some of the things that Mewtwo is going to want to approach with. Now, the issue is also the fact that since Mewtwo has such a large hurt box, Mewtwo is going to get comboed a lot easier than Pichu finding themselves in that situation.
And Coney, it's really interesting because you've got Some Guy that has three fighters that they can choose, whereas Crunchbat is riding Mewtwo till the end, no matter who they face. Like. And so we have yet to really see that counter pick mid-match, but you figure you've now had a chance to sort of scout and see how people have played as you're watching the stream, and that's something you have to take into account. When do I go with my counter pick, which we won't see here? We're going to see Pichu versus Mewtwo, so it will be interesting, but you continue to use that phrase, manage your resources, and that is something Some Guy and Pichu will have to do.
Yeah, one of the things that Some Guy's going to have to work on in terms of like how we saw him play the last match is he was sort of, pedal to the metal the whole way through against Ventus Will. Ventus Will eventually started punishing for that. As you saw right there, Some Guy charging a smash attack before Crunchbat even picked an option. It feels like Some Guy is just maybe a little bit too eager, maybe a little too ambitious at times. And because of that, he's just getting punished again and again. It seems like the early aggression has paid off against Crunchbat. Crunchbat, to Some Guy's credit, Crunchbat is going to have to hold shield a lot just because with how light Mewtwo is, these back airs could be devastating, especially on a stage as small as this one, even only at 107%. It's got to be very careful.
And Some Guy, as we mentioned, with the early advantage, already has Crunchbat up to 127. Crunchbat with Mewtwo, we saw using that confusion and disable to really set up a lot of those KOs and those smash attacks here, Vicky. But right now, it's all Some Guy, just keeping Crunchbat off the side of the stage. But don't forget, Crunchbat has got some of those KO throws.
Yeah, being able to throw out Some Guy off the stage, but Some Guy managing to find that stage control back online in the back here. The last hit just being the only one necessary to land onto Crunchbat, taking that first stock, and overall, essentially boiling down to the matchup that I was referring to where, you're going to have Crunchbat taking more of those hits because of the large hurt boxes, but you see him trying to take advantage of using the platforms to expand on the movement ability. That Shadow Ball catching him off guard as he was trying to roll into the platform there. And overall, that's what you're going to be seeing Crunchbat do on a small stage like this. He's going to try to utilize the platforms to essentially expand onto where he could land.
And you bring up some really good points. And Coney, we continue to see Some Guy with Pichu is going to get so many different combos off of those throws. You've got to be able to create a little bit of distance between yourself and Pichu. And so far, no luck for Crunchbat in creating a little bit of real estate between the two of them.
Yeah, it just could be so dangerous if you're too close. Air dodge is off stage. Now that's privilege, being able to do that and still make it back to the stage. A lot of characters can't do that, but Mewtwo, very lucky in that regard, was able to air dodge off stage and still make it back, but even still, he's on the ropes going from post to post. Just that back air from Some Guy being laid out, but Crunchbat waiting it out, doing a good job here. Huge down smash, and that's going to be the KO.
And
that was really good timing, too.
Turn and momentum, as you point, Vicky. Very good timing, and that timing is going to be really difficult against a small target like Pichu as Some Guy evens things up as we get set for our final stock. Don't forget, loser of this match will be eliminated from the bracket. The winner will advance to take on Ventus Will in our losers final. Right now, it's Crunchbat already eating an early 70%, and Some Guy, Coney, just so capable of racking up damage so quickly, that Mewtwo being such a big, large target once again.
Again, he's just a blender. He's just like this moving hazard on the stage that's constantly attacking. You can see him going for that back air. But the problem is when you're this aggressive, you can fish a little bit. You can be a little bit predictable. And I feel like we as commentators can kind of guess when he's going to smash attack because it's all the time. And if you give him the opportunity to do it, as Crunchbat did there, going for the get-up attack, some guy's going to parry it, get the down smash, and get the KO. Crunchbat has to be a little bit more reserved and careful around some guys' just constant aggression.
And especially coming off the ledge, Vicky, we saw that Crunchbat trying to be very aggressive, getting back on your recovery, and really good players are going to read that eventually and make you pay. And we saw that with the parry leading to the smash.
Yeah, and just utilizing that mistake that Crunchbat had unfortunately made there, and also just taking the 70% on his last stock when he couldn't really afford to do so, being a light character himself. Those are the lightning loops, the blender, as Coney likes to call it, and it was really working out in his favor.
All right, so Crunchbat falling to some guy getting the first game in that match. Let's rack it up again. No fighter change yet, Tony. We have yet to see that counter pick. It seems like they're just very determined to ride things out with who they've gone with. What adjustments do you think Crunchbat needs to make with Mewtwo in this game?
If I'm being honest, one of the biggest adjustments is getting lucky on stage, because part of this is, the stages are random, and we have a large list of choices. I don't think we've seen a single final destination, but Battlefield is, I think, going to be way better for Crunchbat here, just because it's a much bigger stage, it's much larger, so he's going to be able to survive longer than Pichu. And it also gives him more space to play around because of the fact that Yoshi's obviously, it has the wall there, so you can't go under the stage. You can't use that space. But I feel like Crunchbat might be able to hug the wall a little bit more, sort of that curve. But it seems like more of the same starting out here. This cat and mouse game is just, Pichu is just running away with this one.
And it's almost literally a cat and mouse if you really want to break it down. We aren't going to get into Pokemon biology too deep here, but really long first stop for both fighters. And it's some guy's ability here, and this is what we've seen in the previous game, Vicky, is some guy's ability to apply the constant pressure on Crunchbat. And Tony was saying, Crunchbat's got a little bit more room to work with, but you've got to really win neutral and win the bottom part of the stage here to make sure that you are keeping some guy just out of your face for the match, because this is what we're seeing, some guy just right in the mug of Crunchbat and Mewtwo.
Interesting to see the pacing that some guy's been going for. In the first game, similar actually to some guy's set versus Ventus Will, some guy went really aggressive at the beginning and then slowly started slowing down when he realized that it was honestly costing him a lot of percent, and very similar to the pacing in this game too. Some guy really slowing it down, honestly trying to capitalize off of Crunchbat's mistakes and being more aggressive. That's kind of like why we're having a standoff right now between the Shadow Ball and the Jolts.
And as we know, some guy in Pichu, very light character, but this could be a really pivotal point in this match here, Coney, because some guy already racking up 62 with that one stock advantage.
That would have been the stock there. If he got the Thunder on Pichu.
No.
From Crunchbat, just barely off ledge, and shades of what we saw earlier against Greninja. We saw Crunchbat not making it to the stage. He tried to get to the ledge and went a little bit above, and some guy is not going to let up. Crunchbat is not at any control, finally landing that back throw. But good gracious, this is bad.
Yeah, with Peach, you could almost live at 200%. That is definitely something new to see. You don't really get to see that too often, and some guy trying to capitalize off of the offstage play here from Crunchbat, try to get the back air, but Crunchbat knowing better, going for that low recovery to get back onto the stage a lot faster to maintain that stage control.
Yeah, you mentioned the stage control, so critical here. Crunchbat really can't afford to take much more damage. If you can sneak a quick KO here and get some guy down to his final stock, possibly because both fighters are so light, but at this point, it is just too much some guy, too much quickness, too many options, and some guy, once again, closing things out against Crunchbat, and some guy will move on to our losers final, and Crunchbat and Mewtwo, a valiant effort, but just not enough to keep up with Pichu and Coney. Once again, it's some guy and the ability to read all the options that Crunchbat was going to use off the ledge, and a terrific read to close out that match.
Yeah, there at the end, it was just sort of closing every window, closing every door. There was no way out from that position. And as soon as Crunchbat hit the ground and he didn't tech, as soon as he just gave some guy more time to catch up to him and get the down smash and place his attack, it was over from there. some guy just using Pichu's mobility, his speed, his quickness, and his raw just damage. His power is just insane. You saw some guy use that to great effect. Crunchbat, unfortunately, despite some great showings that we saw, we know that he has the talent and the potential. We've seen him pop off in these sets, but it unfortunately just was not enough at this level. Making it to the dance all the way here at the top 4, but just could not pull it out.
Let's go ahead and take a look at the updated bracket after we move on to our losers finals here. It'll be some guy. A rematch against Ventus Will. They faced off in the winners semifinal. Different paths to get there, but they will get a chance to refresh things, maybe recalibrate a few things as well too, as they get set to fight and be the winner. And whoever will advance to take on Greninja as well. And Vicky, last time we saw some guy taking on Ventus Will, it was pretty close. It was 2-1 obviously in the match, and Ventus Will moves on. But I wonder if we will see that Ness versus Pichu, or if some guy might try to change things up based upon the fact that, well, they lost with their Pichu to Ventus Will's Ness earlier on.
Yeah, well, now that some guy has that matchup knowledge and understands what Ventus Will is going to go into the game with, maybe we're going to see a counter pick. And that's the beauty of Smash Ultimate, where you have such a plethora of characters to pick from. But perhaps sticking with a Pichu, understanding what some guy could do to readjust around Ventus Will. We saw some guy take just too much damage, and the threshold that Pichu could live at versus Ness is too big of a gap for Pichu. So I think the slower pace is going to be in effect in the first game, versus what we saw in the last set between these two, where some guy was a lot more aggressive.
And we are not going to see a fighter change. Let's go ahead and rack it up and hit the cue ball. It is some guy, Ventus Will, losers final. Winner will go on to take on Greninja in the grand finals, regions 7 and 8. So let's pick up the action early on, and already it's the same story we saw against Mewtwo. It's the early damage rack up by some guy in Pichu. Just so good, especially with those safe approaching aerials here, Coney.
Yeah, it feels like some guy is just so good going from ledge to ledge, racking up a ton of damage. But one thing that I noticed Ventus Will doing against some guy in particular in their earlier set is utilizing get-up attack. One of the issues that you have is when you're constantly attacking at the ledge, the get-up attack is actually invincible, and it'll go through any attack that you throw out. So if Ventus Will can keep placing that get-up attack in a wise way, I feel like some guy will have to sort of slow things down. Like you guys were saying, I'm a little surprised we're not seeing a character switch, because I feel like some guy is just all offense all the time, but it's going to work out there, as the double T-Jolt is going to steal Ventus Will's chances of making it back to the stage.
Yeah, one of the things that differentiates Pichu and Pikachu is that recovery, and the fact that Pikachu does have that hitbox, whereas Pichu's essentially a floating duck, literally, and that's why I'm a little worried about the yo-yo, but some guy taking advantage of the disadvantage that Ventus Will was at when it came to him having to come back towards the ledge.
Yeah, it's really exciting seeing both these fighters get on the ledge. It seems like they're trading ledge positions back and forth. Someone will recover, that send the other one flying, and that ledge trapping game is going to be critical in this matchup. We saw that some guy really disorienting Ventus Will, couldn't connect with that PK Thunder, but some guy once again living long with Pichu. Pichus aren't supposed to go past their expiration date here, Coney.
No, absolutely not. This is way further than a Pichu's normal life expectancy. This is a very old Pichu here. This stock is getting moldy. It's growing sprouts. Ventus Will, oh no, not again! Shades of the first star. It's just deja vu here as some guy just bursting so far ahead.
And some guy really punishing Ventus Will and Ness when they get off stage, and Ventus Will unable to use that PK Thunder successfully on both those stocks that they lost, and now it's 2-1. And some guy, as we know, so capable of racking up the damage. But Vicky, we've seen Ventus Will really utilize that PK Fire to approach and then lead into some combos.
Yeah, what's the difference between some guy and Ventus Will at the moment is some guy has been taking more advantage of Ventus Will's issue of getting back onto the stage, using those jolts to his ability to actually clip Ventus Will. We have him now in a similar situation where he is off stage, opting to go for that low recovery, but instead of trying to go with just the up B, opting to actually go for the jump to get to that ledge invincibility instead.
The down throw combo coming out once again from some guy has got Ventus Will right where he wants them, on the left side of the stage, and it's been so difficult to recover. But don't sleep on this game yet. Ventus Will able to get another KO. We're down to our final stock for both fighters. And right now, It's all about who doesn't make the biggest mistake, it seems like, Tony.
And I think it may have been Ventus Will there going, well, okay, it didn't really pay off that poorly, but you saw Ventus Will going for the down air, trying to end the game quickly. Nest down air is incredibly difficult to hit the sweet spot to get that spike on. Ventus Will not able to land it. Took a lot of percent, but thankfully did not lose her stock there, as we are down to the final stock. Next hit might do it. Can Ventus Will, despite being so far behind, maybe she'll be able to pull this out. Keep in mind that Nest back throw.
Some guys got Ventus Will off the side of the stage, and that is the theme of this game. The inability of Ventus Will to recover consistently on the left side of this stage. Some guy, the ledge trapping doing a terrific job of closing out this game. And that's what you said here, Coney. When you get down to that final stock, you really can't afford some of those big mistakes that are going to hand momentum over to your opponent.
You got to stay on stage as long as possible. There in that final stock, what happened was, it's a T-jolt. So if you hit Ness with anything as he's trying to recover, as he uses the PK Thunder 2 and hits himself, throwing anything into that really lessens the distance that it goes. And you saw some guy placing that T-jolt right where Ventus Will was going to go. And unfortunately, because of that, the distance was about halved, I think. And because of that, Ventus Will not able to make it back to the ledge. And some guy's going to take that one. Ventus Will just has to get on stage and stay on stage.
Yeah, and Vicky, as you said, that T-jolt is such a powerful edge guarding and ledge trapping tool for some guy, and really utilizing that to its full potential in that last matchup. But once again, some guy just out to the early lead, and that can play mind games if you are Ventus Will, and you've got to play from behind for the majority of the match.
Yeah, it's nice to know that the momentum's also in some guy's part, where some guy had just finished playing that set that we had just seen, and, you know, Ventus Will actually having to wait a little bit in losers for that set to finish. So some guy figuring things out, you know, whereas some guy in the very beginning versus Ventus Will for their first set was still trying to figure out what he had to do necessarily against Ventus Will. And now we've been seeing the difference here, though. Ventus Will bringing it back, that yo-yo as the active hitbox, not going to let some guy make it back, and now Ventus Will in the driver's seat with the lead.
Yeah, Ventus Will and Ness, that yo-yo at the side of the stage has been so effective throughout this entire tournament. But now it's some guy who's finding themselves trailing. Ventus Will trying to get a couple of PK Thunders off to recover, but it won't be enough. And once again, such a high degree of difficulty for the recovery with Ness, and you've got to be dialed in with that, and that's really been the Achilles heel for Ventus Will in this match, Tony.
It's so tough. It's so hard to get the first time, so if you bounce against the stage like that, you do get a second PK Thunder, which is what you saw Ventus Will utilize. She was able to, you know, get 2 recoveries, but that angle is so difficult because you don't want to bonk your head on the stage. You have to go with the slope and curve, and it seemed like she did it, but just a little bit off, maybe by mere degrees. And because that, some guy now gets an opportunity to get back into the game. Ventus Will only did 35% for that PK Thunder 2, but it was not enough to save her life. And now this stock may be over too.
Bonk your head. Spoken like a true dad there, Tony. Welcome to the club. I love it right there. Look out for your bonkers and your oopsies. Some guy falling back on the middle of the stage, controlling things out here, throwing out a couple of T-jolts. Ness missing with the tilt. Once again, down throw leading into the Thunder, but Ventus Will and some guy trading stocks. What did we just see there?
We saw a trade essentially for what looked like it was going to be in more so in Ventus Will's favor, just because of the amount of damage that Ventus Will took in the middle of utilizing the fact that he was avoiding some guy. They both just blew up essentially right there. Unfortunately, KO from both parts, but fortunately now we have an even game.
Some guy trying to close things out against Ventus Will, but Ventus Will connects with the aerial, and Coney, Ventus Will not ready to quit and give up in this tournament yet. Evens things out at 1 game each. You have to love how they closed out that match there.
That was like 4 or 5 back airs in a row, just kick over and over, just placing those hits again and again. That was super tight and just so clean from Ventus Will, because that's not an easy aerial to hit, especially on such a tiny character like Pichu. So Ventus Will really rallying there in the last stock, and I'm wondering if it's going to be how their first set was in winner's bracket. If you remember, Ventus Will lost the first game and then sort of slowly, like you said, recalibrated, tightened the bolts, figured it out. He's now got the 3rd game to try to make this work. I'm interested to see what stage they go to, though, because Is it Battlefield, which is huge and, everybody's going to live forever? Is it Yoshi's, which is really tiny? I think stage is going to be super important for this game 3.
And it's a really good point you bring up because, Vicky, we've seen Pichu and some guy really excel on those smaller stages where you can just continue to rush down your opponent. You don't have a whole lot of room to run. And when we've seen Ventus Will be successful with Ness, it's because Ness has been able to space out Pichu somewhat and then read what Pichu is doing. So no changes in the fighters. But as Coney said, what stage? Let's go ahead and enter Battlefield. Nice, pretty even matchup for both fighters on this stage here. If you are some guy here, Vicky, what are you looking to do to close out this match now that you've had a really good sample size against Ventus Will in this Ness?
I would essentially watch out more so against whenever Ventus Will does have that rage being racked up and not trying to approach versus Ventus Will in the air. In terms of whenever Ventus Will is going to try to come back, when some guy has that disadvantage and some guy is not as close to the stage as Ventus Will is, it could be difficult and you could get caught by those back airs that we saw from Ventus Will land on some guy. And the only reason why that really happened was because some guy was trying to hold forward to get back to the stage as fast as possible.
PK Fire coming out from Ventus Will. Both fighters just exchanging a couple of glancing blows. Nobody with a clear advantage at this point, but also the platforms really come into play here, Coney, and being able to get yourself underneath your opponent is going to put you in such a better advantageous state.
Yeah, in Smash, it's sort of a general rule of thumb. It's an understood thing that being above your opponent is a very bad thing. So that's why you're going to see these guys sort of patrol the bottom side. Ventus Will trying to catch some guy jumping, but it doesn't happen. I do think this sort of, I gotta be honest, I think the stage does favor some guy more than Ventus Will just because it is going to extend the blast zones. It means that some guy's going to live for longer. Ventus Will isn't getting KO'd because of damage. Ventus Will is getting KO'd because of edge guarding. And that's going to happen on any stage because, no stage has a floor. And huge down smash there from some guy, that's going to be devastating to Ventus Will.
Yeah, some guy waiting for the smash attack of Ventus Will to whiff and gets the punish. And Vicky, as you continue to point out, it's about reading your opponent and finding those really narrow openings to capitalize.
Yeah, we finally get the back over there. And it was unfortunate, too, because Ventus Will had tried to go for a really hard read, and because of that, some guy took advantage with the down smash. And although it did look like Ventus Will, she could have DI'd it just a little bit better, but not doing so, unfortunately. And now, with 37%, some guy is trying to take this lead to a different level.
Both fighters on their second stock. Winner will move on to the grand finals to take on Greninja and Coney. This has been the most exciting matchup we've seen throughout this entire 4-player double elimination bracket, and the fireworks continue to pop off.
I'd say so. Huge forward smash there from some guy. Just a haymaker all the way on Ventus Will with the extension on the forward smash. Ventus Will is going to have to pull something out here as some guy is trying to go for his revenge. Keep in mind, Ventus Will is who knocked some guy into losers, and now it looks like some guy might advance, but Ventus Will using these aerials to great effect. But the platforms, as you were saying, seem to be great relief for some guy there as he retreated to the top platform using that Pichu up B. Great use of his resources trying to get out of there. The back row, is it fact or fiction? It's fact! That's going to take it.
Yep, and
Will closing things out here and making it even. And Vicky, as you said, with Pichu, the match can turn at any moment because you're a very light character, and we've seen Ventus Will with just the tenacity to never give up, and then another really good read with the yo-yo once again.
Yeah, we saw something similar within Crunchbat versus some guy where some guy was able to bring it back despite being, a little down there, but now some guy still in the game, but has to be careful. He is a glass cannon again, and so he is more susceptible to getting knocked out a lot earlier than Ventus Will, and the way that Ventus Will has been playing so far, just essentially capitalizing off of some guy's play off the ledge and trying to get back to stage control.
Both fighters nearing 100%. Final stock, the Thunder, and that'll do it. Some guy backs revenge against Ventus Will after getting knocked out in the first round of the winner's semi. Some guy battles all the way back in the loser's bracket and will now face Greninja in the grand finals. And as you said before, Coney, those platforms really benefited some guy and able to use the superior mobility that they had over Ness and Ventus Will to really close out that match.
Yeah, if I'm going to be honest, man, I felt like some guy was just constantly hitting. Just constant swinging, A button, A button, A button, down smash, back air, up tilt, and there the down tilt into the Thunder, just constant attacks. And that last stock I thought was going to be played a lot slower. Like I thought that it was going to be like them just sitting under the platform, sort of taking their time. But some guy landed that one opening on Ventus Will. Ventus Will is not ready for it, landing the Thunder. That's going to do it. Some guy is going to advance into finals.
Let's go ahead and take a look at that bracket now that we have our grand finals set here and our finals between regions 7 and 8. Greninja, who is yet to lose a match, will take on Some Guy. Don't forget, Some Guy will have to reset the bracket against Greninja. And so Some Guy will have to take 2 matches away from Greninja if they want to be victorious. Greninja just 1 match away from being your winner. Don't forget that winner will get a digital download code for the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass Volume 2. Digital code for the Splatoon 2 game and the ARMS game as well too. And so this is where it gets interesting when it comes to fighter choice, Vicky, because we saw Greninja use Cloud. We've seen some Joker come out as well too. But now you have a very fast rushdown character in Pichu. What direction do you think Greninja might go in when it comes to their fighter here?
Well, neither of these players have played against each other thus far, so this is going to be the first time that Greninja is going to be exposed to the rushdown Pichu that we've been seeing from Some Guy. But we can't count out Some Guy either because we also seen that Some Guy has played a plethora of other characters on his own between the Dark Pit and Bowser. So Counterpick Central could be coming up here for Grand Finals. So it's going to be quite interesting to see which of these characters that these players are going to opt to go for.
And sometimes momentum plays a huge role here. We have seen this. Some Guy has played 3 matches in a row now, whereas Greninja's had to sit a little bit. Ventus Will had to sit a little bit. Does that factor in when you get to this high level of a play here, Coney?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no question. I read a stat a long time ago. I don't know if it's still true, but people coming from losers bracket 1, I think way more than average, like 60, 70% of the time. And it's because they're playing hot. They played a lot of matches to get back into this. And let's not forget, Some Guy, it's not like he dipped down straight to losers finals. He had to play all the way back up. So we'll see if he manages to do it. I do think he's going to struggle against Greninja because I feel like the constant onslaught of aggression, I think Greninja, his play looked a little bit more sophisticated, and I think he's going to be a little bit more ready for that. But I think it does come down to character choice, like you guys were saying. The fact that we hadn't seen any Dark Pit or Bowser thus far leads me to believe he's just going to stick with Pichu all the way through, just rock with that. But that's going to be tough against Cloud, and it might be even tougher against Joker. I'm really interested to see how this one goes.
Yeah, and as we said before, it's random stage selection. And Vicky, do you think the stage is going to play any type of impact in this matchup if we do see Cloud versus Pichu and no surprises with our fighters?
Yeah, absolutely. Coney was mentioning how, one of the biggest rules in Smash is you don't want to be above your opponent. That sets you up already for a disadvantaged state. And if Cloud is going to be in the fray, those platforms are going to be deadly if Some Guy is going to be on top of them, especially when he wants to expand on those combos. That Buster Sword essentially covers almost the entire platform, I believe. So it could be difficult for Some Guy to just make it back to the stage and at least get some sort of stage control.
And we look at the fact that we're here in grand finals here, Coney, and you've seen a lot of championship matches as they get set to decide a winner here for a tournament. What's the mindset that you have to approach when you get to this point? Because now you've gotten into a little bit of a groove, but you know that you've got that championship right there in front of you. You're just a match or 2 away from that.
Yeah, you got to take every game one game at a time. One of the things that can happen sometimes is I've actually been a competitor before. I've been on both sides of this. I've been the guy coming into grands from losers. I've been the guy waiting in grands and winners. And I can tell you from losers bracket, you can sort of jazz yourself up a little bit sometimes where you'll say, okay, well, I just won a match. I just got to win 5 more. It's not that hard. It gets harder. Some players are much, much stronger sort of over time. I do think that Some Guy does have a bit of a benefit because these are both 2 out of 3 sets. So, he doesn't have to win, 2 grueling, potentially game 5 sets. But he's going to have to switch stuff up. And I feel like Greninja does have the advantage just because he's sitting in winners. He only has to win 2 games and then it's all done. So we'll see how these guys play it out. Some Guy's resolve is really going to be tested here, along with his adaptability and sort of ability to play around what Greninja's trying to do.
Yeah, that's a good point you talk about there, Coney, because obviously you want to reward aggression, and aggressive players can tend to put a lot of pressure on their opponents. But you said a sophisticated player, and if you're able to do that, you can then read that aggression and find something to counter with each time.
Yeah, Yeah, there's a difference between just all out aggression, like almost like a barbarian, right? And something that's maybe a little bit, more like a surgeon. You're sort of finding your moments and sort of with much more precision. From what I've seen from some guy, I worry that sometimes he's maybe a little bit too sort of just constant all out. And I don't know if Greninja will be able to. I feel like Greninja might be able to sort of suppress that. But, I mean, we'll have to see in the match coming up. Some guy might show us something we haven't seen before.
All right, as we get set for our grand finals here, it is Greninja taking on some guy. We've seen Greninja just roll through the competition using a combination of Joker and Cloud. Some guy, meanwhile, really utilizing Pichu and riding Pichu all the way through the loser's bracket to get to grand finals. And what I'm really excited about seeing in this matchup here, Vicky, is just how capable Pichu will be able to edge guard against Cloud. We know Cloud doesn't necessarily have the best recovery, but at the same time, we know that Cloud can still get back on stage, still has some weapons, isn't afraid to dip low as well too, especially when they get on the offensive.
Yeah, so we've been seeing some guy utilize two of Pichu's best tools when it comes to offstage pressure, and that's the T-Jolt, and that's the forward tilt by the ledge to two-frame, essentially the other fighters that we've seen throughout the bracket. And I think that's going to play a huge factor in at least trying to make a comeback if Greninja happens to be in the lead, which that damage output from Cloud is going to be showing that more than anything. It all depends, though, at how many times Greninja is going to be at that disadvantage state for some guy to take advantage of that.
Yeah. And Coney, if you're using Cloud, it's about getting your limit and getting time to charge that. But it seems like you might not have a whole lot of time to sit back and have some lemonade on the porch and charge limit against Pichu and some guy for how quickly they want to rush down on you the entire match.
That's a very good point. Yeah, I was going to sort of go with the angle that, Pichu might perish very quickly against Cloud with that limit. I mean, you got to keep in mind that limit cross slash might KO Pichu at 50, 60, 70, depending on where they are on the stage. But that's a very good point that you bring up, where some guy is just all out, right? He's just chasing you down. He's trying to hammer you in, and there's no time to charge the limit. So the only limit that you're going to get is from getting hit, honestly, or landing hits on your own. So we'll see if Greninja can use that limit in wise ways. Like we saw before, I feel like he is sort of the penchant to kind of let it go early and not really wait for the opportunity and kind of let it rip right away. So maybe he'll have to be a little bit more sort of discerning on that, but it all comes down to sort of how these players feel each other out. I think in the early game too, I think the first game is going to be huge for establishing the pace of the rest of the set.
Yeah, both players getting set to face off against each other in grand finals. Once again, these are the grand finals for the Region 7 and 8, Northeastern North America, as we like to say it here, for our Super Smash Bros. Ultimate North American Online Open, May 2020. Don't forget, next week on June 7th, we'll have the finals for Regions 5 and 6. That'll represent Southeast North America as well, too. So plenty of action. And we talked about 3,000 players just for Region 7 and 8 combined here, Vicky, and just to be able to get to this round of 4 and get to this finals is impressive in and of itself. But it looks like we're ready to roll here, and here we see Joker coming out very much like Greninja did, pulling out Joker against an Inkling in the round of 32. And what do you think is the thinking behind this here, Vicky?
Yeah, I think it settled down to what Coney was mentioning before. Now it's not the fact of trying to get the Gip onto Cloud. Now it's actually even harder where, both Cloud and Joker have the ability to rack up this meter. So that way now instead of the final meter, you're going to have to be thinking about the fact that Joker is going to have that Arsene on board and the back air that is going to be coming into play when it comes to some guy approaching from the air. But now you also have to think about some guy playing a character like Pichu could low profile under a lot of these moves, especially on a stage like Lilac.
And Arsene already joining the battle. Greninja going to go ahead and wait for that smash attack to cool down. Good read, but the down throws have been such a pivotal tool for some guy and his Pichu throughout this entire tournament here, Tony.
Yeah, getting the down throw combos has been super huge for him, but waiting for that forward smash is exactly what I was sort of talking about before. Greninja just kind of waiting, taking a second, and realizing he doesn't have to get up right away to see if some guy can sort of adapt to that. He does have the advantage early on. See if he can get this edge guard. Greninja definitely avoiding that back air. Some guy now in the bad spot. He's going to go under the stage. Excellent use of that Pichu up B and recovery to change his fade up and be able to make it to the other side.
Yeah, some guy just really changing things up against Greninja with that recovery. And we've seen some guy get out to the early lead, but Arsene is not too long away. And Vicky, when you're fighting against anybody that's using Joker, it's all about when can you take that stock and how their Arsene meter is building up, because that's such a pivotal point of any Joker's game, is utilizing Arsene at the best time in these games.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, although the lead is in some guy's favor, the unfortunate truth about Pichu is you never really have the lead at the same time. Something as fatal to that is, you know, Pichu loses its stock really early and still living to basically 172%. That forward tilt is going to finalize Greninja's first stock here. Although some guy with a slight lead, it may not last for too long at 156.
Some guy taking the first stock off of Greninja, but as we mentioned before, some guy really close to the edge here of getting KO'd with that percentage. But this is what you've got to do in these games here, Coney, is when you realize that you've got a stock lead and you've got some percentage on yourself, you're just trying to chip away and get a little bit of your homework done before you get set to the next lesson.
Finally losing that stock. The fact that some guy is staying alive so long on these stocks is just, it's criminal. I mean, that's supposed to be the weakness of the character, but some guy is just eliminating Greninja here. Takes out the second stock just without sweating.
Some guy with bricks in his pockets, apparently, in this game, already out to the advantage, as you mentioned before, but Greninja not too far away from bringing Arsene out again, and here we go. Greninja might have a window of an opportunity to come back, but it's all some guy, all the momentum, riding the wave out of the loser's bracket and putting some pressure on Greninja, trying to take this first game here, Vicky.
And we were talking about keeping your hands warm, you know, throughout these last 3 sets, that some guy has been able to actually just do exactly that. You could see it being utilized to its full potential, but now you're seeing a little bit of a different playstyle from Greninja, actually giving more respect to some guy and opting to go for more so reads. You see, not trying to overextend and managing to catch that recovery. You saw some guy actually try to go for the ledge, but unfortunately missing right above it, and he is going to get caught by Greninja's smash attack there.
Yeah, we see Greninja trying to go with that down B to build up the Arsene meter, but well read by some guy, leading into another down throw combo, and that's already created this deficit of 97-6 on the final stock. And this is where some guy, that aggression, you've got to be pinpoint accurate, because you cannot allow Greninja to get back into this, build up Arsene, and be just a couple of connections away from ending this game here, Coney.
Yeah, we're coming down, about 4 minutes have passed, so I'm very interested in the timer because this has been a bit more slow pace. Some guy has been able to sort of cut through his opponents like a hot knife through butter. But Greninja has put up a bit more of a fight. That back air will land and it will be the KO even still. And some guy, I think it was all nailed down as soon as he landed that forward smash on the right side of the stage. I believe Greninja got KO'd at sub 100%, which is just, that's tragic for him. You can't lose your stock that early against Pichu. It's just going to set you up for disappointment.
Yeah.
And you also pointed out too, Coney, and this is something that we were chatting about, Vicky, about Pichu, is yes, Pichu can rack up a ton of damage, but what you're trading off is that lightweight. And if you get anything close to 100% damage, you're supposed to be KO'd. Well, what some guys really done here, Vicky, is live beyond 120, 130, and be able to rack up that damage on that second stock to give them just enough of a lead to close out these games.
Yeah, it's not even against Greninja, just throughout the bracket in total. Some guy's been doing a really good job at sustaining that survivability, but now being able to keep the lead like that, in general, it's just very difficult to make a comeback versus Pichu when he was exactly an entire stock ahead. I mean, I believe he was like at 0% when Greninja lost his stock at 80.
So here we are, some guy, one game away from resetting the bracket here in Grand Finals. Greninja looking to try and recalibrate after taking that first L with Joker. As we said before, Coney, it was all about Pichu and some guy's ability to sort of steal that second stock from Greninja. Let's see if Greninja plays a little bit more of a patient baiting game, looking for those quick little windows to capitalize against some guy in Pichu.
I was expecting to see, honestly, but I feel like some guy's aggression is just too much for Greninja to keep up with. I'm really surprised that the ability of some guy to find these openings and just sort of flow through the wall. I mean, like, it feels like there's one brick missing in a wall and he just tears all the way through it. Right now, it's about even between the two, but Arsene's gonna go away, so Greninja might have a little bit more trouble getting the KO. We'll see if some guy can get stage.
And that's the thing about Joker here, Vicky. When you don't have Arsene, you don't have a ton of KO options. As some guy The sticks are still on fire. Goes ahead and takes that first stock. And let's see if some guy, this is where we've seen it, Vicky, living at 126, 130, and being able to rack up damage on that second stock, finding that separation.
Yeah, some guy not needing a persona of his own here, just managing to find that KO instead. And with the lead, it's going to be a little tricky because we were just talking about you don't want that lead to escape you, and some guy's been running around with it versus Greninja. In general, although whenever he does get that aggression going, it's difficult for Greninja to get out of here. And because this Grand Finals isn't a 3 out of 5, some guy only needs one more win to basically bracket reset, and perhaps we may see a change from Greninja if he wants to opt to go for the Cloud within that second set.
Yeah, and Coney, what we see here is some guy really doing a terrific job of waiting out Arsene, and it's all some guy. Pichu might be the lightest character in the game, but might have the biggest heart, as some guy is just one stock away from resetting this grand final bracket. You can't stop him, Coney. You can't stop him. It's just aerial after aerial for some guy in Pichu.
The unstoppable force just tearing through his opponents again. No way! No, don't
do it!
The entire charge? That was nuts. Some guy gets the whole charge on force. Ends with the tree stock. Oh no, living to 174%. He should not do that. Pichu should not be able to do that. I can't believe he's doing it.
On a silver platter.
It's so funny here, Vicky. I've got an 18-month-old son, and just like Pichu, a small little mammal just dictating the day and how things go right here. And Pichu resetting the bracket with some guy, and now we get to grand finals, winner take all on this final match. And we've talked about aggression, but if you don't have a good defensive game plan against that aggression here, Vicky, you can see how quickly you get overwhelmed. And it seems like no matter when somebody bounces back with that fresh stock, Pichu gets him to 40, 50%, just like that.
Yeah, it's just difficult for Greninja to recover, and you could say, honestly, he's quite a bit shooketh with the way that some guy has been playing as aggressively as he can. And just as I was thinking about it, the Cloud Switch is on board, and Coney gets his wish. We are here on Final Destination.
Yeah, and Coney, Final Destination, no platforms whatsoever. You've got tons of space to roll around and play here. And Greninja making the switch to Cloud. I wonder if that'll change anything, but already some guy, those aerial combos, just able to rack up so much damage.
I don't know how the Cloud's going to fare. I do think he needed to do something, and I think that going Cloud was a great choice. It just, I'm going to be honest, like I was saying, I thought that some guy was going to struggle against Greninja early on, and I was clearly very wrong on that, as some guy just kind of burned through him, especially in that second game. This is the first time I think we're seeing Final Destination here, and I think Greninja kind of rolling something a little unlucky here, a stage with no platforms on Cloud, but he's doing okay here so far, pretty even, gets that huge cross slash, doing a lot of damage, but it all comes down to this edge game.
Oh, but narrowly avoiding Greninja, some guy right there. He does manage to get back, but just as quickly, he is going to be off stage. Some guy not going to be able to utilize that, but the patience catching the roll. Some guy still in the lead here. Now Greninja having to figure a way to make the comeback.
And Coney is down smash on the edge. That's been the bread and butter for some guy with Pichu, reading the recovery so well. And some guy, it seems like it doesn't matter what fighter you're throwing out there. Some guy's got a game plan with Pichu, and that is, I'm going to get up all in your face and not give you any options or any room to breathe.
Yeah, what he does is he pushes you to the ledge, and then you're either going to get down smash, forward smash. He might just do a reverse back air, so he'll just jump backward at you, and that catches jump from ledge, that catches roll in, catches a ton of different things. So some guy has a myriad of options at the ledge that he's kind of cycling through. And again, bro, 153? Come on! This is nuts!
Some guy and Pichu living well beyond the typical percentage you're going to see. Down smash on the edge once again. Vicky, this is just some guy. It doesn't matter what language, what fighter. They're able to read it all, and some guy taking full control of this tournament, looking to get one more stock to take the first game in grand finals. Remember, both players are down to their final loss, and whoever wins this match will win it all.
I mean, you have to think about the fact that Greninja had to take a little bit of a breather there coming down from that top platform. And at the same time thinking, I felt for that again, you know, rolling back onto the stage, getting caught by that down smash, now having to force his way back with stage control with some guy still up an entire stock over Greninja.
Greninja almost close to building limit, but some guy, what we've seen here, Coney's done a great job of darting in and out of sort of that zone of that Buster Sword that Greninja has, and able to just stay just enough outside of that zone not to get punished for a lot of those approaches in the neutral game.
Yeah, I feel like some guy's doing an excellent job of using that mobility like we talked about. Greninja waiting for the smash. Excellent wait. Excellent get-up attack. Just getting some free damage. Some guy maybe being a little bit too aggressive there, but honestly, I'm pretty gobsmacked because I did not expect this to be such a blowout. We'll see if Greninja can figure something out here. Has him at the ledge. Only about half limit. Forward tilt will do it. Greninja now in control. It seems like he's in the driver's seat. He has a lot of momentum here. We'll see if that can translate to a game win.
And right now, Greninja just with the stage control, keeping some guy off the side, able to build up limit as well too, throwing out a couple of different options for that edge. Going Thunder connects, and some guy with so many tools to get back on stage and apply pressure. Doesn't matter where they're at. Pichu will find you, Vicky.
Yeah, you saw the freeze frame right there, actually adding a little dramatic effect to some guys' first game victory here in the bracket reset. I mean, now going into this next game is either going to be some guy taking the entire thing from right underneath Greninja, or Greninja could try to bring it back despite the bracket getting resetted.
So some guy who got sent down to the losers bracket after a first round loss to Ventus Will has battled their way all the way back to grand finals, has reset the bracket. It's been all Pichu applying pressure against everybody. Greninja now with their back up against the wall, unlike anything they've seen, not even in the round of 32. I'm curious to see if we're going to see Cloud or see Joker here, but it seems like it's Greninja being forced to adapt here versus some guy that is just sitting back and saying, oh, and how about this?
Hey,
Cody, a complete change-up is what the catcher calls for here.
I think he had to. I think he had to do something. Joker was not the play. Cloud got ran over. You got to do something. And I guess the answer is the blue blur. We got Sonic the Hedgehog is out now to try to deal with Pichu. And maybe the idea is to sort of match the speed. Maybe he could create distance and kind of run away a little bit more and catch his breath. Because I feel like some guys just constantly pushing the issue, aggressing. Maybe we're just waiting for some guy to hurt himself a little bit more. Because let's keep in mind, those electric attacks have done so much percent to some guy over the course of the day. So we'll see what Greninja's strategy is here as Sonic is making his first appearance of the day.
And Vicky, with Sonic in your neutral, it's not like most other characters where you're looking to kind of land that jab, that tilt, or that safe aerial approach and lead into combos. With Sonic, you're just darting in and out, looking for those openings, but also you've got the speed to punish essentially any fighter on any whiff or landing.
Oh, but unfortunately, it looked like he was trying to go for the platform there, but I'm not too sure. Yeah, it looked like he had unfortunately just fallen right through it and losing his stock pretty early. This is the lead that some guy exactly wanted. Now, with only 75%, he could afford to take in that self-destructive damage that the T-Jolts do to himself in general, like the electric moves that he has. And now Greninja at a disadvantage. He maybe not getting tilted necessarily, but now keeping some guy at least off stage. Wants to try to take advantage of the fact that he has to make this comeback.
Listen, Coney, I'm not fooled. Some guy in Pichu at 128, I'm not even sweating bullets because we faced some guy that lived to 160, 170, 180, even there taking the throw and still alive at 148. Some guy hanging on there, but gonna go ahead and face the retribution coming out from Greninja. Greninja evening up the stock, trying to stay alive here. Some guy, one game away from claiming our championship between Region 7 and 8. And Coney, it's just some guy applying pressure, but if you're Greninja as Sonic, you've got to be able to escape those combo opportunities and break those up.
After watching these, has some guy lost a game since Ventus Will early on in the tournament? I don't know if he has. I think he's just torn through his opponent bit by bit. And Greninja just has to find some... I don't know. It's an answer to a question that has not been figured out just yet. Some guy gets the dash attack, cannot get the follow through, but Greninja's still at a big disadvantage. But let's keep in mind all the damage that some guy is doing to himself. He's already at 75. If things go like normal, as they should, and this Pichu perishes at 80 or 90%, Greninja should be okay.
Yeah, Greninja really trying to hang on in here and has done a better job with the second stock of not having to face a lot of the down throw combos, but some guy one stock away from claiming the championship here. Greninja really going to have to dig deep. Some guy, and that's what we're talking about, Vicky. Some guy finally perishing at under 100%.
Using the back throw on the platform to extend closer to the blast zone right there. The lead that some guy had has just slipped away as Greninja recognizing the situation and managing to come back from that back throw. And that was fantastic. I was going to point out, too, just being able to get Town and City. Oh, so close. Great DI, though, coming from Greninja. This is an extremely close situation, but he respected some guy too much. Unfortunately, drifting way too far from the ledge and losing that stock. Some guy takes it from loser's bracket over Greninja.
And that'll do it. As Coney pointed out, some guy falling down to loser's bracket after the first match. After that, plows through the rest of the competition, doesn't lose a single game on their way to resetting the bracket and claiming our championship for a Region 7 and 8 in the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate North American Online Open, May 2020. And Coney, I got to start with you. What did we learn from some guy in this Pichu in this absolute display we saw this afternoon?
Pichu is like, it's like a circular saw that turns on. Like, have you ever seen in like cartoons where like a tool will turn on the ground all by itself and then it just kind of cuts all the way around the room? That's what I'm seeing from some guy here. It's like he just goes off and he's just all over the stage. You can't get away from him. Ventus Will did figure it out at one point and he actually did take the set, but ever since then, some guy just, it was his show all the way through. We know that he played Dark Pit and Bowser throughout the rest of the tournament, but not this time. Just Pichu straight all the way through. And I'm honestly kind of surprised because like you were saying earlier, Vicky, with all the fighters in this game, with all the different matchups, all the different considerations and dynamics at play, to go straight Pichu all the way through is impressive. That's a feat.
Yeah,
it's really impressive. And Vicky, as you pointed out, with all these different fighters, you go with someone like Pichu. It's not about just understanding Pichu's strengths, but also understanding the best way to approach all these other different fighters. And it seemed like the theme was everybody was trying to adjust to some guy, whereas some guy just stuck with their game plan throughout the rest of this tournament, the rest of this bracket. And that's how they rose to success here today.
Some guys' survivability honestly expanded beyond what Pichu's weaknesses are in general, and the fact that he was able to live beyond 160 more than 50% of the time that we saw him on stream is the reason why some guy really took advantage of the lead despite dealing that self-damage that Pichu does.
So that'll do it. Some guy is your winner for Regions 7 and 8. They will take home a downloadable code for the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Fighters Pass Volume 2, a downloadable code for the Splatoon 2 game, and a downloadable code for the ARMS game, emerging victorious from nearly 3,000 different players and resetting the bracket to come from behind and get the victory as Pichu. So that'll do it for us. A big thank you to our wonderful crew. A big thank you to Greninja, Ventus Will, and Crunchbat for giving us some fantastic matches, as well as my other two co-casters, Vicky Kitty and Coney. Don't forget, next week, June 7th, we'll bring you the finals of Regions 5 and 6 as we continue along with the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate North American Online Open, May 2020. From all of us here, thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you guys next week.